Hi, and welcome back to the Intern's Chair. I'm your Essential Public Office High School intern and host, Kevin, and I'm here with Assistant Principal of Donaldsonville High School, Mr. Hilton. Today we'll have a few questions for Mr. Hilton about ACT prep and how it helps and contributes to students' academics. Before we jump right in, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I guess the most important thing that I can say is that I'm a proud husband and father. Husband of almost 15 years now. I know it doesn't look like it, but that's why I have no more hair. No, not really. And I'm a father of 4 children. Yes, 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls. And everything else about me, I mean, some people don't know. I ran track for LSU. I love all sports. I'm a bit of a self-proclaimed nerd because I just like learning. I love to teach. And I'm a pastor at my church.
That's crazy. And that's very interesting. Question 1. When was your first time taking the ACT?
My first time taking the ACT was actually in the 12th grade.
What?
Yeah. And you would think otherwise, right? The only reason why I got interested in the ACT, in all honesty, is because as kids, my dad did a great job, I would say, really establishing an expectation within us. I have an older sister and a younger brother, and there was an expectation of going to college. We didn't necessarily know how we were going to get there, but there was an expectation. Long story short, my sister made the required score to get tops, and then my senior year, I took the ACT, and I tried to get the score as well. It wasn't required back then for high school students to take the ACT, so I just waited till my senior year like everybody else.
I really didn't expect that. Was there anything you could have or wanted to change when you took the ACT?
Well, I mean, I was comfortable with the test. I didn't know how much I needed prep. And it wasn't until I was dating this young lady who went to another school who had taken a prep course and she had scored a 24 that I said, I probably need some prep also. I had a 19 at the time and I didn't get any prep, but she gave me her book from her prep course. And I would love to say I spent hours going through that book. I didn't, but I looked at a couple of little things that it said would possibly help me to save time and score better. And I applied those things and I went up 2 points.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. How did you take interest in ACT prep?
It was all about luck, man. I mean, it was happenstance. It was luck. I was in a place where I was just trying to do anything extra. I don't think people realize the reality behind how low teachers get paid. Right? When I started teaching, my actual annual salary was $27,400. That's terrible, okay? So I would do side jobs, especially over the summers, because I was a teacher, so I didn't work over the summers. And this summer, I can't remember which summer it was, but I can almost go back to it. Let me see, my daughter's 8 years old, which means it was probably the summer of 2010, because she was born in 2012. And I was working at LSU doing study skills course for them. They had an instructor who got sick. No, I'm sorry, rewind. She got pregnant. That's not sick. It's not the same thing as sick. Okay, she got pregnant. And so she couldn't do the course. And so I stepped in and did it. Rewind, it must have been 2011. And so they liked me so much, they said, hey, she's going to be out some more. There's an ACT prep course. Would you be interested? Absolutely. Because they told me they pay like $40 an hour. I was like, absolutely. Well, the people called me from the company, and it's still through LSU, but it was another company. Worked with them over the phone. We had a phone interview. They liked me. Problems to work out. I worked them out. We had a second conversation, and I started the same weekend my daughter was born, which is why I went back to her age. The weekend she was born was the first day that I was supposed to go and prep. But I told them sorry, so I went the next week. And it's been 8 years and a lot of learning all in between.
It sounds like it went smoothly for you, very smoothly.
It did. It really did. It was weird, but I don't know. I have this passion when I get involved with stuff.
When teaching ACT prep, do you first break down the subject that most students have trouble with, or do you have to pick the random subject?
Good question. So I have a systematic approach to teaching the ACT. And I believe that you can have any type of approach you want to, but there's one thing that I tell students that for me is extremely much more important and more effective than focusing on, hey, I need to improve in an area. Everybody can improve in an area, all right? Unless you have a perfect score on the ACT, everyone has the opportunity and the space to improve. The problem is students don't look at the ACT generally like they should. They look at it like they look at every other test they take in school, which means if I didn't do well on that test, I need to find out where I didn't do well and improve. But those are criterion reference tests, which means you're going to have a certain amount of information on specific subjects. With the ACT in particular, for the English test, for example, you have 75 questions. The number of questions you get right determines the score for the English test. There are criteria, there are standards, but it's a composite score that the school is going to look at. So you're 19, you're 21, you're 25, whatever your score might be, could be a consistent score at each level, or it could be a maximized score in 2 tests with a general score in 2 other tests. So instead of trying to get, if I want a 21, instead of trying to get a 21 on each test, what if I'm not so great at math, but I can get a 19 maybe? And that science test is the most difficult test because the language is so difficult. So let's say I'll get a 19 on the science test also. What does that mean for the English and the reading test? If I'm stronger in English and reading, why don't I try to make up the points there? And I get a 23 in English and a 23 in reading. I'm still going to get a 21. And so instead of trying to focus on where I need to grow here, I say from the research and the reading that I've done, in particular, John Maxwell is one of my favorite authors. And John Maxwell says leaders should spend the majority of their time focusing on their strengths and less time. Don't ignore the areas where you want to improve, but less time on those areas where you're trying to improve. In particular, say you should only spend about 25% of your time on those areas where you're trying to improve. So what if I spend 75% of my time where I'm already strong? I'll give you an example. I had a young student, 7th grade. I convinced her mom she needs to take the ACT. This young lady, 7th grade, she made an 18 on the ACT as a 7th grader. Most people are like, man, that's a pretty good score. 18, oh my goodness, you're in the 7th grade, that's fantastic. But when I worked with her, I told her, I said, you should not get less than a 21. She was a little nervous. 2 years later, Earlier last year, in February of 2019, her mom reached out to me. She's going to take the test again. She's a 9th grader in high school now. Just 2 years later, I sat down with her and I said, we are only going to focus on your 2 areas of strength. Instead of looking at all 4 tests, we're going to focus on your 2 areas of strength. She improved 8 points. She has a 26 on the ACT right now. We focus on her 2 areas of strength. She made 30s in both of those areas, her reading and her English. And she made decent scores on her math and her science. Her mom wants me to work with her with the math some more. We will. But she has a 26 composite score because she focused on her strengths. So I don't pick just little areas where the kids might struggle. I have a systematic approach. I'm going to say, hey, not only what's your strength, also what's the easiest test? And most kids don't know the easiest test is the English test. You say, well, that's the test with the most problems. That's why it's the easiest. You don't get as many problems on a more difficult test because there's nowhere in the world for if it's that difficult for you to ever finish.
That is something. That very is something. So basically, I've been thinking about it the wrong way the whole time. I've been thinking about it the wrong way, but it's very inspirational. It really is. Do you think teaching ACT prep is not only beneficial to you, but also to students as well?
Good question. So I have an average of about 2 points increase, but I've had kids score all types of scores. I haven't had a kid get a perfect score yet. I did have a kid who had a 32. He came to me and said, Miss Hilton, I want a 34. I said, okay, here we go. He got his 34. He emailed me, Miss Hilton, I got my 34. Thank you very much. Hey, you did the work, man. I just showed you where to focus, right? That is extremely beneficial to a student when they reach their goals, right? But you cannot ever truly pay me for the personal satisfaction I have in knowing that I helped a kid do that, or the personal satisfaction I have when a parent reaches out and says, thank you so much. My kid got the goal, the score that they were shooting for. We thank you so much. You are God's sent. That's more, that's the heart of a teacher though, right? That's why we get into education. We know we're not going to get paid a lot, right? Mm-hmm. So the benefit for me is way beyond what I can make as far as a monetary recompense for my time. The benefit is seeing the smiling faces, the happy hearts, knowing that kids are going to college ready and have the access that they needed because I was a part of that story for them.
It's beneficial both ways.
Yes.
It helps them develop their own character.
Yes, definitely.
Do you think the ACT has more benefits than the SAT?
Another good question. So it depends. It depends on where you live, really, or it depends on which school you're trying to attend. The SAT is used not as much in the southeastern part of the United States as it is maybe on the upper East Coast or even on some of those West Coast schools. So it really just depends. There is within each school scale generally, where had you taken the ACT and they look more for the SAT, that they'll say, hey, if you took the ACT, this score is equivalent with what the SAT score would be, and vice versa. So it really just depends. It depends on where you live. It depends on what the school looks for. So you really need to know the college that you're approaching or that you're trying to attend and what they prefer. If that school prefers the SAT, you should be taking the SAT. If that school prefers the ACT, you should be taking the ACT. Now, when it comes down to scholarships, most people don't know how to look at scholarships and how to use scholarships with their different scores for the SAT or the ACT. I think it is in the 11th grade, 10th or 11th grade. I can't remember because I don't focus on the SAT as much. But in one of those grades, I think it's the 10th grade, you take the pre-SAT, and your score on the pre-SAT will determine your eligibility for national merit, scholars, and honors. And so if you, I don't know the required score, but if you get certain scores, then you'll get scholarship offers just coming out of every nook and cranny toward you because you did well on the pre-SAT. So there's benefit there, right? The 90th percentile on the ACT is a 27 or 28. So generally when you score 27 or 28, schools have scholarships already set up for students who score that on the ACT. And so you need to know what the scholarships are available, what the scores required for those scholarships if you're looking for scholarships. Generally, that's the most beneficial part of either of these tests, not to mention college admissions, right? And so the benefit between the two is, there's no difference really. They're both college entry exams or entrance exams. So you just need to make sure you know what the school wants and then focus on that.
A lot of information taken. How long do you think students should practice for the ACT?
Never stop practicing for the ACT. So the ACT is an interesting test. The company that I work with out of LSU, they used to say something. I was happy that they changed their lingo because they taught us instructors to say that the ACT is a skills test primarily. It's not a content test. But that's a lie. Okay, it is 100% a content test, but the content is going to be found in the English and the math test, right? Where does that content come from? It comes from grade school through high school. And so really, if you're not doing a good job with studying and doing great in your studies at school, you're going to have a time with the ACT on the English and the math portion because you really never stop practicing for the ACT. When you're in class, you're practicing for the ACT. Whether or not your teacher is intentional about using ACT standards and incorporating that or embedding that in their instruction, as long as they're teaching you English and standard English, or as long as they're teaching you algebra, geometry, trigonometry, you're getting prepped. As long as they're requiring you to read, write, and also edit, analyze, and proofread your writing, that's getting you ready for the reading test. As long as they're teaching you science and how to use data and interpret data to make decisions, they're preparing you for the ACT. So in my prep course, I do 20 hours, right? But my statement to every student and every parent, 20 hours is not enough. If you don't take and put in more time behind what I'm telling you, good luck to you. Because it's not really about your time just spent with me. Your time spent with me is going to energize you, it's going to encourage you, it's going to motivate you. But it takes 21 days to break a bad habit. So what if your bad habit is how you're looking at the English language arts and how you're analyzing those different sentences to make sure that it has appropriate subject-verb agreement? What if you're looking at it the wrong way? It takes 21 days to break that. And it takes another 21 days to establish a new habit. That's 42 days. Okay? 20 hours, 42 days. You do the math, right? So I tell my students, spend at least an hour studying outside of their time with me on a daily basis. On a daily basis, at least 6 days a week. So that's another 6 hours on top of a week on top of the 20 hours with me, and they meet with me for 5 weeks. And so that's another 30 hours. So really my students get about 50 hours of prep if they're using that one extra hour that I instruct them to do. The students who do it, they learn the skills, they learn the strategies, they are more adept at applying those strategies, and they score well. But any kid that goes to, not just my prep course, you go to any prep course. If you don't put in the personal time to build the foundational understanding and structure so that you can actually use it, you won't use it. What you will do is what you did the last time you took the test. That's exactly what's going to happen.
So, fundamental. It's very fundamental.
It is.
So, it sounds like I need to stop from doing 30 minutes to an hour. I do.
Absolutely.
Do you have any techniques that can help first-time students taking the ACT to stay calm and focused?
Preparation builds confidence, right? So the first thing I tell a first-time student is you need to be preparing. Okay, if you want to do well and you want to be confident, you don't want to be nervous, and you want to stay calm and stay focused, then you need to look at ACT type problems. Get familiar with them. Don't let the first time that you see those types of problems be when you sit down and take the test. And don't let the last time be the first time. Well, I'm taking the test again on February 8th. Well, when's the first time you took it? December 12th. Well, have you looked at anything in between? No, not really. That is not what you want. Preparation builds confidence. And when you're confident, you're not nervous, you're calm. Right? I also, not just with a systematic approach to how I organize my prep, systematically train students to look at the test in that way. Or I use the word systematic a lot, so I'm trying to be careful not to use it again. But truly, my students approach the test from a very systematic mindset. In other words, my students know there's 75 questions and 45 minutes on the English test. And my students know that 60% of the problems answered correctly is going to give me the average score of 21 on just about any test. For the English test, that's 45 problems. My students know that 45 problems is only 3 of the 5 English passages, which means that even if I don't finish the test, I can do well. Guess what just happened? All kind of weight just got lifted off of them. Because they know it. I don't just drill it. I require them to know it. I require them to set a goal. So if your goal is 21, I'm not going to say just do 45 problems. You're not giving yourself any space. I'm going to say focus on 4 passages. In that 5th passage, you're going to wait for the last 5 minutes. But before you do anything, you're going to fill in your letter of the day on that 5th passage on the English test. And I'm just using the English test as an example, right? But if my goal is a 21, I only need 45 questions correct. So that 5th passage, if I just fill in letter of the day, I've already removed the stress of trying to finish the entire test. This is not a test in school where I need to get a 90% to get an A. If an A is a 21 for me, I need 45 questions out of 75. And that means that those 45 minutes, now I'm 1 minute per problem instead of 36 seconds per problem. Weight just got lifted off my shoulders, right? Then I teach them how to spend 10 minutes on each of those passages on the English test, the first 4. If they're focusing on the 21, I say spend 10 minutes on each and learn how to do that. Practice doing that at home. Practice timing yourself at 10 minutes. Learn what it feels like. You're developing a muscle memory that says, I know how long 10 minutes feels. Also, within that 10 minutes, I'm learning how to use these strategies I'm learning within my sessions with Mr. Hilton so that I can use it efficiently. So at the end of 40 minutes, I finished those 4 passages. I have 15 more problems and I have 5 minutes to go. And so now in those 5 minutes, I'm not going to try to answer every problem. I know which ones are the easy ones because my students have a systematic approach. They know which ones are the easy ones and they're going to find that easy problem and they're going to erase that letter of the day and they're going to read that problem and they're going to answer correctly. They're going to increase their scores. And so how do I get the stress off? They have a systematic approach and we do that for each of the tests. The English test is just one. We do that for the math test, the reading test, and the science test.
Sounds like magic.
It feels like it sometimes, but it's simple. It's like chess.
Oh, chess. Mind games.
That's it.
This is our last question, last and final question. Where do I go to find out more information about ACT prep?
So, number 1, you need to go talk to your counselor. They have all types of information. Companies and the ACT themselves, they send information to every high school counselor. They consistently send it out. We get emails as administrators, counselors, people at the district level. Go talk to them. You really don't have to go far. Because of the internet and the advent of it and its power now, type in ACT into Google. I mean, you don't have to go far. It's not hard. It's not difficult. Every branch of the library in Ascension Parish has a free ACT test at least twice a year, if not more. And it's not the actual ACT, it's an ACT prep test. Why is that important? Because you'll get experience taking the ACT, the timing, the types of questions, all of these things. You could also you can Google ACT prep and see what companies come up. Right? There are a lot of different companies out there. Or you can call Mr. Hilton, right? You can go to a lot of different prep companies, but if you don't have a good prep individual, good luck to you. Because you're only going to get so much. They need to be knowledgeable. They need to stay knowledgeable and stay sharp in the changes that ACT has. For example, just 3 or 4 years ago, they implemented this consistent expectation now that on a reading test, you're going to have one dual reading passage. Some kids don't even know that there's going to be a dual reading passage. They also many people don't know that at the beginning of this year now, the ACT has implemented a one test focus where students can take one test instead of taking all 4. And if I can prep for that one test and spend those same hours prepping for that one test, I'm really doing what Mr. Hilton just talked about, focusing on my strength. Or if it is an area where I need to grow, I'm focusing on that area by itself. And then now we're going to be able to use that. They don't know that some schools have a super score that says, we'll take all of your best scores from all of your times taking the test, and that'll be your super score, and we'll use that to get you in. Or which schools supply those opportunities? Because not all schools do. Like LSU doesn't do that. Southern doesn't allow for that, but there are other schools that do. So you have to know which schools do what. You have to know that the information you need is at your fingertips. If you have a cell phone, or it's right there in front of you when you're talking to those teachers or those counselors every day passing by their offices, it's not far. You just have to be willing to knock on somebody's door or search for it.
So you're basically saying you have to collect or find your resources.
Yeah, I mean, they're right there. They're right there. They're right in front of you. It's very easy. Even online, ACT.org will give you practice problems that you can work online. Right? So it's not difficult. We live in the information age. I don't know if most people recognize that. That's what they call this, the information age. The information age is this. When I was your age, I can't tell you how many phone numbers I had memorized. But nowadays, we don't have to memorize phone numbers because we have phone numbers stored in ourselves. I can't tell you how much knowledge I had to know. And so rote memorization, even in school, was extremely important. Whereas nowadays, it's not as important because it's at your fingertip. What that has done is it allowed some people to be lazy because it's right at my fingertips. When I'm sitting in front of that test, I can't use Google. So I have to have built some knowledge. So if you're going to build that knowledge, you're going to have to put some effort into it also. You know, people like me and companies like my company, we're going to send out all types of marketing. And so you have to be attentive to it, looking for it. But in all honesty, if somebody wants to do better on the ACT and they're not putting in the personal effort to find where those resources are, they only have themselves to blame.
Okay, folks, this wraps up our interview with Mr. Hilton. I'm glad you came to this interview, and to all of you listeners out there, I'm your public information officer, high school intern, but remember, I'm still just the intern.